Hey, this is Mrs. Murdock, and we are going to go over free energy graphs today. Free energy graphs. And first I'm going to introduce the players here. What kind of symbols are you going to be looking for in these graphs? So one of the first ones is delta G. Delta G is the change in free energy. During the reaction. And really all delta G is the difference between the potential energy stored in the reactants and products. And that'll become obvious when I draw the graph and show you how that's diagrammed, right? So it's just the difference in energy between the chemical energy stored in the reactants and the chemical energy stored in the products. Another thing that you'll see is something called E sub A, which is the symbol used for activation energy. Activation energy, which is the energy needed by the reactants to kind of get the reaction started. And it's different from reaction to reaction depending on whether the reaction's going uphill or downhill and how complicated the changes are. And then finally, the last thing that you'll be asked to recognize in terms of the graphs is something called delta S. And that's the change in entropy. Entropy, which is that fun word we learned about last time, which is just literally a measure of the disorder. And in this case, we're measuring the disorder of the molecules, whether they are reactants or products, how much chaos is in those reactants or products, how many molecules are we dealing with, and is the overall change between reactants and products increasing entropy or decreasing it? Okay, so now with that done, let's actually draw the graphs that will show you where these different values are. So I'm going to draw one graph for cell respiration and another graph, the exact same type, but for photosynthesis. What I want to do is make some nice, see if I can draw straight lines here. I'll do my best. Nice graph axes for both of them, because I'm going to show the changes in these values for these two types of reactions. So last time we talked about ways to describe chemical reactions, and one of the sets of words that we used was catabolic versus anabolic. You may remember we talked about reactions that are catabolic and reactions that are anabolic. So which one of these would be the catabolic type of reaction? Respiration, very good. So let's kind of put that there to remind us that that is something we already talked about. So catabolic reactions, you remembered correctly, are when you have a larger molecule and you're breaking it up into smaller molecules with the release of energy. So photosynthesis is the opposite of that. Photosynthesis is going to be anabolic because an anabolic reaction takes lots of smaller molecules and builds them into a larger one. And then I'm going to give you two new words which will go very well with these two that we already learned. The word exergonic means that energy is released overall in cell respiration. And the opposite of that is endergonic. Endergonic means that energy is absorbed overall by photosynthesis, which is true. So it's good to kind of put those words together because they go together, and then they are oppositely positioned. Yes? Free energy is the energy that is either available to do work either potentially or kinetically. So we're really measuring in these graphs, we're measuring where the energy is starting and then where it's ending and what it's doing in between. So that's a good question. So that leads me to put things on my axes here. So we're measuring free energy, and free energy can take either potential or kinetic form. And in both cases, we're looking over time. So it's free energy over time, just over the progress of these reactions. I also want you to remember that cell respiration and photosynthesis involve a lot of steps, not just one. So I am taking some liberty here by representing them as just a single overall reaction. In reality, there are many, many metabolic steps in cell respiration and in photosynthesis, but we're just going to look at them simply today. So what you do when you start drawing a free energy graph is you start with where on the y-axis the reactants would be in terms of how much potential energy is stored in them. So it's pretty high for respiration because glucose, which is one of the reactants, and those 6 oxygen atoms store lots of potential energy in their carbon-to-carbon bonds and carbon-to-hydrogen bonds, right? So the energy, the potential energy is about there. And then the reactants are going to be way down here. The products. The products are going to be way down here. So the 6 carbon dioxide atoms and the 6 waters that go down here have less stored energy in them than the reactant molecules we started with. Then what we do is we draw a curve in between, and a curve that represents, that includes the activation energy. So this curve is going to look like this. It's going to go up before it goes down. It's going to go up before it goes down because there's always a hump that reactant molecules need to get over before they can finish turning into whatever they're turning into. Okay. So then now the first thing I'm going to put on this graph then, since I've done that, is I'm going to show where the delta G is. So in order to do that, I'm going to extend the reactant line and extend the product line a little bit backwards. Because delta G is literally just the distance between those two lines. Delta G is the change in free energy between the reactants and products. And that is never going to change, regardless of how fast the reaction goes, how easily it happens. It won't change because it's just a measurement of the difference in potential energy of the products and the difference in potential energy of the reactants, right? And in this case, since this reaction overall goes downhill, can you see it goes downhill? The products are way down here. This is a negative delta G, because the reactants lose energy to become those products. And what happens to that energy, you ask? Well, it's very good that you asked. That energy is released, right? That energy is released since this is an exergonic catabolic reaction. And we know that the first law of thermodynamics says that you can't destroy or create things. Whatever energy was stored here is now being released into the system. Some of it is released as heat. There's the second law. Some of it, because this is cell respiration, is stored in ATP molecules, which is the only point of doing these reactions in the first place. That's the saving grace of cell respiration. Why do all that if you're not producing something? Because these things down here are not useful to the body. We can't do anything with carbon dioxide and water, but ATP, we can work with that. Okay? So there's that much. Okay, now the other thing that you need to know is the activation energy. The activation energy is the hump that the reactant molecules need to get over before being finished. So that's the activation energy right there. There's your EA. Okay. Now I'm going to move over here to photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the opposite reaction. So now your reactants are starting here. Sorry? No. I'm losing my mind here. Hold on. No. Sorry. Now your reactants are starting down here. Come on. There we go. Because your 6 carbon dioxides and your 6 waters have less energy than your products. And your products are now going to be that glucose and oxygen over here. And 6 oxygens. Okay. So now when you draw your activation energy, it has to go above the level of the product. So it's going to go up like that, and then over and down and meet your products. Okay. So now when I extend my reactant line, and I extend my product line, and I draw my delta G line, just like I did before, there's my delta G value. But now, because it's an uphill reaction, that's a positive value, because now there are more energy stored in the products than there were in the reactants. So there you go. Okay, activation energy, this is something that a lot of students get confused about. Some students think, oh, the activation energy is just right here because it was there in the other picture. But in fact, you have to start all the way down with the reactants and go all the way up to the top of the hump. So the activation energy is huge. It's this entire distance. That activation energy, that's quite a lot for those reactants to overcome before they can react. So in terms of the energy, over here, remember, energy was released in the catabolic reaction. Here it is absorbed. So energy is needed by this reaction to get over that activation energy hump and create that glucose. And it comes from, if you remember photosynthesis, it comes from sunlight. Remember that the plants are the only things that can harness that energy and allow it to turn into useful things like sugar. Okay. So I'm going to go right along to talk about entropy last. All right. So entropy, remember, is an amount of disorder. So let's go back over here for a minute. To take a glucose molecule and some oxygens and break them into 12 inorganic particles, are we increasing or decreasing disorder? We're increasing disorder, right? So we have a positive delta entropy value for exergonic reactions. We're increasing disorder. There's more disorder, more chaos in 12 particles than there are in 7. And then conversely, over here, we are taking those 12 particles and organizing them. So then entropy is negative for photosynthesis, right? So that describes the free energy graphs and changes that I wanted to teach you today, and I hope that's helpful.